Hello and welcome to Trystology Talk, Sex and the Empowered Woman, where we will be having frank discussions about sexuality, female self-pleasure, and intimacy and play with partners. I am your hostess, Roylin Downs, and this is episode 4. So excited to be bringing you episode 4. We've got so much to talk about, especially with 50 Shades coming up, and so that's going to be our subject today. But before we go into that, I just want to give you a heads up. We went to the Women's March, and there's going to be a little separate video on our YouTube channel about the Women's March. I thought it was great. I got to share it with my husband. There were so many people there, and except for the fact we couldn't find a bathroom, like for miles, that didn't have 50 people in line with it, we had a really great time, and I also got to share it with my sister. So if you're interested in kind of seeing how crazy it was over there, take a peek over at our special edition on our YouTube channel, and we'll look forward to seeing you there. So today, have you had your orgasm today? So not today for me, I must say, but yesterday. And yesterday was really interesting because I did not feel like it. It was one of those days that you just have to get up and get shit done. Excuse my language, but I have stuff I need to get done. And I had a hard time fitting it in. So I just want to make sure people know it's not all that easy to do. See, I didn't make it today. Yesterday, I had to squeeze it in, kind of like, you know, when you don't do your sit-ups and you don't do your meditation or you don't do your 20 minutes of cardio, when you don't have your orgasm, like I'm going to be cranky today. I could tell already. I'm starting to get a little like, but I'm in a good mood right now. So work on it for my mental, physical, and emotional health. I need to own my orgasm. My customers and I this week, we were talking about orgasm a day, owning your orgasm, and how people feel a little uncomfortable with the posting on Facebook or social media, hashtag an orgasm a day. So we've come up with this really cool thing, and we'll be posting it on our Facebook page, but we want to do a hashtag OYO campaign where you own your orgasm. Many of my clients are shy and don't want to post that, so they post the OYO though. And we got real excited. A bunch of my customers were here and we were all talking about it. And so we decided, own your orgasm. And even at our ladies' luncheon this week, the coordinator for it stood up when I was doing my talk and said, own your orgasm. So I have to own it because I own the concept and I want my customers to own their orgasm. That's going to be really fun to see how many people do hashtag OYO, and maybe we'll even get some t-shirts with OYO on it because it's really important for the public to know that we own our orgasms as well. So today's subject, 50 Shades. Now, why am I going to talk about 50 Shades? Because that's so like 4 years ago, but it's not. The movie's coming out, the second one. It's coming out this week, in fact. I think today, the 8th of February. So I want to talk about 50 Shades because I haven't had that conversation with everybody about why 50 Shades is kind of important in our sexual health, in our owning of our sexuality and our sexual empowerment. And the thing is that wherever you stand on the book, doesn't matter. It's certainly not a literary novel, and it certainly may not be the best written book. But what happened when 50 Shades came out was that I think the numbers are upwards of 30 million copies were sold. And people of all generations, from their 20s into their 60s and 70s, were reading the book, both men and women, probably 98% women. But the thing is that it gave people like this voyeur into a different type of sexual relationship that most of us, me having been in the industry, I understood it a little bit better, but before I was in the industry, most of us thought that BDSM was just like taboo, they must be deviants, it must be really bad, who would want to do that? But what 50 Shades of Grey did was it taught us that, oh, a little blindfold, a little feather tickler, maybe a little spanking, can really enhance the relationship. So it gave a lot of people permission to kind of explore and look into other options for their own sexuality and for their own sexual lives. And it gave, men were really excited because they had permission from their wives to buy a vibrator, or they had permission from their wives to get some cuffs. And it also, I don't know if everyone who read the book, but something that I taught when I was teaching the 50 Shades of Grey classes, which were really popular at the time, was that in most of our traditional relationships, there's no conversation. There's this hand holding and attraction, and then there's like cuddling and groping and kissing, and then we make love with very little conversation about, well, how do you like it? And what would you like? And should I go slow? And, what is it you particularly like? Nobody really talks about it in most traditional relationships. But in a BDSM relationship, as we see, there's not always a contract, but there's always a conversation. And in 50 Shades, the chapter 11 teaches you that, oh, look at all these different options. I could spank with my hand, I can use a cane, I can use a flogger, we can discuss whether we're going to use a vibrator. And so there's a conversation before there's ever any laying on of hands, which I think was a really awesome concept and really good in every relationship. And so for me, 50 Shades allowed for that new way of having a conversation before lovemaking. It also, I feel, gave permission for the individuals to make decisions over their relationship, because a lot of what we do is by default and given us through our society and through cultural norms and things like that. So all of a sudden, two people in a bedroom are talking about, do they want to do spanking? Do they want to do a little flogger? Should they be blindfolded? And nobody else is being consulted. And I think that that's a really, really great thing. And one of those things about 50 Shades that a lot of people are or had been concerned about in the day, a couple years ago, was whether this was a woman that was being abused, whether she had empowerment, because I'm all about women empowerment, sexual empowerment, female empowerment, and owning it, whatever it is for you. And the fun thing was for me, when we went to Catalyst Con in Long Beach, Good Vibrations, which is a great shop up in San Francisco Bay Area, they have a sex educator, Carol Queen, who was doing a feminist perspective of 50 Shades of Grey. So I had to go to that because I thought, oh my God, I want to hear. I have a feeling and I perceive that this is a woman who is a feminist, who is telling him, don't buy me a car, don't put money in my account, you cannot give me this contract, you can't tell me what to do. And I feel that she is a sexually empowered woman. And Carol Queen agreed. I loved it. A lot of people didn't like that they felt or perceived that she wasn't a strong enough woman, and yet in the end, I really think she was. And Carol Queen did bring up those subjects about how she said no. She left. She talked back to him and told him what she was willing to do and what she was willing not to do. Don't put money in my account. Don't give me a car. I am a woman who takes care of myself and makes decisions for myself. And so that's one of the things that I really liked about 50 Shades, and did feel that it was a good role model, even though it was kind of a little bit different example than we're accustomed to for relationships. But I do think that it is something that kind of opens up our minds and opens up our eyes, again, as I said, into a voyeur, into a different type of relationship. So I think that's kind of cool. So the phenomena for me of 50 Shades is that it created this conversation. And if you haven't actually read the book, you only saw the movie, I really do recommend reading the first book. For men, I say it's a great way for you to get ideas for how to play. A lot of customers would come in and say, it's just not possible. She couldn't have an orgasm in every lovemaking session. And I'm like, I read it, and if you blindfold someone and then you tease them, feather tickler, vibrator, something sensual down the back of the leg or the spine, what you're doing is you're enhancing the sensation, creating arousal, and then orgasm can be achieved a lot more easily. We've talked about women are like crock pots and men are like microwaves, so all that anticipation and heightened sensation really do help with achieving the orgasm more easily. So I do highly recommend looking into reading the book, getting ideas, and adding a little spice into the relationship. So what are the products? Our products today are going to be the things that you might use in a 50 Shades type situation. So they are things that might have been perceived as a little kinky for the vanilla or traditional relationship, but nowadays with 50 Shades, we've kind of gotten permission. So what I have here are some really kind of fun and playful ways to play. This is the Jimmy Jane kit that has the blindfold. It's a really soft leather. Can't see this on the podcast, but it's a soft leather blindfold and soft leather cuffs. And they're really, really kind of sensual. And then we have these glass Kegel exercisers. So in 50 Shades, she inserted the Kegel exercisers and walked to the other room to get a sandwich and had an orgasm. Now, I must say, I don't think everybody's going to do that, but it is really nice to have that kind of sensation. And in another scene in the book, she is spanked while having these Kegel balls inside. So this Jimmy Jane kit is really an amazing little kit because it's not only really pretty and soft, but it has these glass Kegel balls, which are really great for just enhanced sensation as well as tightening the pelvic floor. So that's kind of your nicer, kinder, sweeter because of the bow and the softness that is tied onto with the Jimmy Jane. For those people that are looking for a little bit more sauciness, can take a little bit more hardcore feeling, like you really want to resist and restrain. You've got the Velcro of the Kink Lab kit that can be hooked into any restraint system, but they do also have the under the bed restraint system that you can just clip your ankles and wrists in and pull on, and so that one is a little bit more adventuresome. The thing about it is I have had customers who have been concerned about whether they could get out. It's really important to know whether you can get out. So what I say is you tie or do the under the bed restraints above your head so that you can unvelcro or untie yourself. If you want to be really kind of saucy, then you and you want to be restrained and not be able to get out. Some people are okay with that. You put them off to the sides like you were in a cross kind of scenario. So the under the bed restraints from Kink Lab are really inexpensive. They're $40, and then you can put them under the bed and then tuck them on when you're done, and nobody needs to be the wiser unless you have a housekeeper and she makes your bed for you. So those are great. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the sensory play piece of it, where you're kind of enhancing the arousal and sensation, you have the blindfold, and then you can use something like a feather tickler which I have here, and all feather ticklers aren't created equal. I didn't know this until I had teased someone with this kind of more fluffy feather tickler, and then another one that had like individual feathers. They really do feel different. So you need to try and see, and you can see how if you put this on the inner arm, it kind of is arousing. The only person, I love this, I learned this from one of our sex educators, the only person that touches your inner arm, your inner thigh, or your neck is your lover. So that's always a really good place to tease your partner, because it's really kind of like enhancing. So that is a feather tickler for sensory play. You also can get something like a crop. So you've got a little crop and you can tease with it or give it a little smack. And depending on whether you want it a little softer, this one tends to be a little bit softer. We have other ones that have a little bit more sting to them. Crops are kind of fun for a play tool. It can also be role playing for a little bit more of a dominating approach. And then we have things like our floggers. So the one I'm showing today, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, is, and you can see these all on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Trystology. But this is what we call a fluffy flogger. So it looks like it's just kind of soft, and it is. So you can see how you can just rub this along your partner's body, but you can also give it a little bit of a sting and get a little, you get the sensation of hitting, but really not hurting, but having a little bit of sting. And then you also can get floggers with just the suede on them as well. So there's a lot of different options, and it's something that I always recommend couples kind of shop together or get a feeling and understanding what, permission, who wants to be spanked or who wants to have a blindfold and who wants to be tied up, and negotiate all of that. There is, as I said, a contract on chapter 11 in 50 Shades to give you a kind of a guide, but all of these toys are fun and playful that can be included in a relationship with consent of both partners, and are awfully fun and playful for the 50 Shades role-playing kind of thing. And one of the last things I want to show you is sensory play that kind of feels like it's a little scary. It looks like it's a little scary, but if anybody has ever done sewing or cooking, this is like a pastry thing, or something for sewing where you're putting your lines out. But this is actually called a Wartenberg wheel. And it's spiky, and it's just a single wheel, and doctors use it across the knee to kind of get your sensations. But when you're blindfolded or when you're tied up and your partner rolls this wheel down your hand, down the back of your leg, down your inner thigh, it creates a lot of sensation and like a little spikiness going down. Some people find it really pleasurable. Some people find it a little tingly. Some people find it a little tickly. So figure out whether that might be something you would be interested in trying. Wartenberg wheel, we carry them in the store as well. And they're just kind of fun to play with. And this one looks really, really kind of scary, but so many people like it. So this one is called a finger fork. So it's on your finger, it looks like a fork, and again, the same kind of a concept. With a finger fork, you can roll it on the inner thigh using your finger, just going down the neck, down the spine, down the back of the legs. I've had a couple of people want more than one to be able to really tease their partner with, but the finger fork creates not your soft sensation like you're going to get with the feather tickler, not the flogging or the sensual running along the body of the flogger. This is metal. It can be cold. It can be warm to body temperature. And then it is really kind of teasing. So really ramping up that sensation of sensory play and creating the arousal. So those are a couple of other options for you to look at when you look at the 50 Shades of Gray. I call it 50 Shades of Play, to add on with your blindfold, your handcuff, and maybe some other little accoutrement. So, fun 50 Shades, right? Lots of different ways in which we can play with our partner, and some things that we as vanilla folk with chocolate sauce or cherry on top can add and enhance the relationship with. So if you'd like more information about any of these products I talked about today, be sure to check out our website, Trystology.com, and look for our sensory play, flogging, and other items that we showed you with 50 Shades of Grey. And with that, we conclude episode 4. Thanks for joining us at Trystology Talk, Sex and the Empowered Woman. I'm your hostess, Roylin Downs, and we'll look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Trystology for passionate well-being. It's okay to look.